Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sports Shorts Daily. Ronnie Rants alongside Tommy Chrysan here in this Monday edition. TK joining us over in Port Allen at Court Street Cafe, just 5 minutes across the Mississippi River Bridge from downtown Port Allen. I'm at an undisclosed location presented by the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. Go to lasportshall.com. Don't forget, the November 17th, 18th. Got the big party at LeBairs on the 17th, 6 to 9. Got the big golf tournament, 10 a.m. on the 18th. You don't want to miss it. A celebrity event. Go to lasportshall.com. And then, of course, we were presented by LeBairs Casino. LeBairs Casino this past weekend, absolutely just ridiculously the place to be with the Alabama weekend. Better than Ezra on Friday night. The ESPN Sportsbook was packed watching the game Saturday. It'll be the place to be this coming Friday night for the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight. No question about it. So make your plans to be over at LeBairs this Friday over in Baton Rouge. All right, TK, crazy weekend. 3 things to talk about because we could talk about a million things, but we got to narrow it down. LSU football, the ultimate disappointment. Saints, we told you, you make a coaching change for that 1 week. There's life, there's juice, there's excitement in the building, and that's what happened. And then thanks to Cuckoo, who decided this guy's been a dagger in the side of the New Orleans Saints for a long while. The kicker for the Atlanta Falcons, he decided to miss 2 field goals against the Saints, and the Saints hang on for a 20-17 win. Did put a little bit of scratch on the Saints plus 3.5. We'll see if they come back down to reality. Going to be interesting side note to this week's game with the Saints. They play the Browns. Oh, by the way, Jameis Winston going to get the start for the Browns. He comes home against Derek Carr, so that's going to be a little interesting story there. And then the LHSAA, Louisiana High School Athletic Association, the playoffs are supposed to begin this week. The brackets were released tentatively, but hold your horses. There's a lawsuit. University High and Baton Rouge sued the LHSAA. There's not supposed to be a hearing till November 18th. That's a week from today, which means that if nothing gets done, if nothing gets resolved, if nothing gets changed this week, then the playoffs are going to be pushed back a week. And November 18th, or the brackets will be redone, whatever the case may be. But November 18th is supposed to be the hearing. So if they don't get anything resolved this week, then next Monday it'll be resolved. And what does that mean for the Dome? Did they push the Dome back a week? Who knows? It's a crazy situation. But we will kind of update you more on Wednesday. Hopefully there's a resolution by then. But it has the entire high school football playoffs on hold, which is just very strange. But let's go to Alabama LSU on Saturday night, Tommy. You were there. You took the grandkids. Tell me about your experience and what you saw.
Well, it was good. We got wet. It rained on. We had the ponchos, and we watched the team come down Victory Hill, and the kids enjoyed that and all that stuff. And we had good seats and watched the game, and it just wasn't a game. I mean, as Craig just said, the Tiger thing was a non-story. I thought it was interesting. Right before they rolled the Tiger in, LSU put up a video special on Mike the Tiger on the video board. And I thought when they did that meant the Tiger wasn't showing up. Then the Tiger showed up, and they had a drape over the cage, and then they got him in spot. And they pulled the drape off, put some spotlights on him. He looked like he was sedated. He looked like he was half asleep. And that was pretty much a non-story. The drone light show.
Let me ask you, Tommy, because I didn't see that. I was in the hallways talking to people when they pulled the cape off. Did the crowd cheer? Did the crowd boo? Did the crowd do anything when they pulled the cape off and tried to make a big at Omar in the cape?
I would say a light round of applause is how I would describe it. And I was paying attention because I didn't hear any. I was in the about halfway up above where Alabama runs out. That's where I was sitting in section 412. So I was, I had good seats, but I would say a light round of applause was the reaction when they pulled a little, curtain off of the cage that Omar was in. Rumor is that Omar entered the transfer portal after the game, though. So after watching that result, but and then the drone light show, the salute to the military, all that stuff was fantastic. I mean, it was amazing to watch it. As you said, you had a little knowledge. It's very expensive to do that, but it looked expensive, but it looked really, really, really good. My daughter actually videoed it, and it looked spectacular. Now, to the football game. Here's my take. Brian Kelly comes into the press conference after the game. First thing he says was, we have to coach better. Well, why didn't you think of that 2 weeks ago when A&M's quarterback ran all over you and you had 2 weeks to prepare for Bama in what was essentially a playoff elimination football game? And Jalen Milroe goes 39 yards untouched for a touchdown on the opening drive. Untouched. I mean, I'm going to repeat that. Untouched. And then, of course, he had the big long run, but 180-something yards rushing. LSU, if they had a plan, it didn't work. If they made adjustments, that didn't work. What it tells me, and I've been around a long time, as we all know, I've heard a lot of press conferences, a lot of coaches, a lot of sports. Brian Kelly is basically saying, as he's famous for throwing others under the bus, we don't have the players to compete the top level of the SEC against an A&M or against an Alabama or some others, that we don't have the players to compete there. And it's mind-boggling that they could not have been more prepared and more ready for this game with Alabama. Like we said, essentially a playoff elimination game. Alabama's still in the playoff conversation. May or may not be there. LSU's not going to be in the playoffs, regardless if they win the next three. So, I mean, it's disappointing to the LSU fans. They said we didn't live up to the LSU football standards. Well, you had 2 weeks to get ready for this. So, again, I got to keep saying that the talent level is not what it needs to be. Have they had injuries? Yes. They had a lot of injuries? Yes. But you still, you're wearing purple and gold. You're playing for LSU. You're playing in the SEC. That's what you signed up for. It's got to be better than what it was against Alabama. And Alabama, as we know, has, they lost to Vanderbilt. They lost to Tennessee on the road. They had the false start penalty on the first play of the game, like the crowd, which, although that stadium was packed, there wasn't 10 seats that weren't taken in that kickoff. And the noise, and they got the false start penalty, but Alabama kept their composure and ended up with a touchdown. And you just never had the feeling that LSU had a chance to win that game. And Garrett Nussmeier has regressed. He came out the gate, good numbers, touchdown passes, this, that, and the other. In the last couple of weeks, he's not performed nearly as well as what they hoped that he would do. And that was part of the problem. Other than that nice run by Durham early in the game, which they got a first and goal and 5 and could score. Okay, they didn't get the field goal there, but it just wasn't. They didn't have a chance against Alabama in that game. And then why did they have the starters in at the end? It was just a different kind of night. And most people left in the middle of the third quarter when it became 28-6, and certainly when it became 35-6. Just a really bad night for LSU football. And the Brian Kelly critics, who have been around since the day he got hired, it's just like they say, it's just like Notre Dame. He can't win the very big games. He's going to win his share. He may maybe win more than his share. He's going to spring an upset every now and then, but he can't consistently win the big games, and he didn't do it on Saturday night.
I mean, that Milroe was just running a high school offense and just running around back there. Best athlete on the field 2 years in a row now. LSU defense can't stop the best athlete on the field, and this time around, they weren't even close to him. I mean, they just got mauled, manhandled. Offensive line, Milroe's just too fast, too big, too strong. They got worn down. And at the end of the day, going into the season with Nussmeier quarterback, the concern is what has manifested itself. The gunslinger mentality, the not taking care of the football, the turnover, 2 interceptions, a fumble, like it just doesn't take care of the football. He is a turnover machine. He could have had 3 more interceptions. The guy just, whether he throws it up down the field or whether it's even little dump passes right into 3 with traffic, like he has no regard. There's no thought process. The way he plays there's nothing about it that is, hey, let me not turn the football over. Hey, let's punt this drive. Let's just, no. And against teams that are better than you or even with you, you can't win that way. You can get fortunate and, every once in a while, you can hit a parlay. Every once in a while you can bet a parlay and win. But for every parlay you win, you lose a lot more of them. And that's kind of how he is at quarterback. Yeah, we can make that 4th and 23 pass or that 4th and 5 pass, or we can thread the needle on occasion, but that's not law of averages. Law of averages say you can't play like that way and win. Law of averages has you as a 6-3 team. And now that loss against USC was terrible. It was a terrible loss against a bad team. And so, and by the way, this is an Alabama team that has played awful on the road, who lost to Vanderbilt, and they look like the better team against LSU by far. And so, hey, enjoy going 9-3. That's where you're headed. 9-3 is, in Baton Rouge is not good enough. You didn't make the playoffs when you had it. You had Alabama at home. You win the game, you're going to make the playoffs. You're going to win the next 3. Florida's got a 3rd-string quarterback. Vanderbilt's coming back down to reality. That juice is over. And Oklahoma's awful. So you should be 9-3. And you're going to be playing in a bowl game that nobody cares about. Nobody.
Well, the other thing about Nussmeier, one of the main attributes of a quarterback is accuracy. Some of the passes that he misses aren't even close to close, okay? I know receivers make quarterbacks look good sometimes. They make a really nice catch, or they reach up, or they reach down. But some of these balls aren't in the same area code with him. Man, they didn't throw the ball down the field enough. They had to hit Taylor up the seam for a 20-plus yard gain early in the game. And then everything else they throw towards the sidelines, checking down. I mean, it's 3rd and 9, and they check down, throw the ball 2 yards up the field. You got to move the chains. A quarterback's legacy is defined on 3rd down. Can you move the chains? Can you keep your team on the field? And on 3rd down, their rate on 3rd down against Alabama was terrible. And I mean, Alabama was clearly the better football team. Alabama has owned LSU other than a couple of spots in the past decade plus. And this is not as good an Alabama team as we've seen in the past. They don't have that 1st-round draft choice wide receiver, the Williams kid, the freshman. He might get there one day. And they don't have that running back like a Derrick Henry or all these other running backs that they've had that you can just count on. Bama's not – they got Jalen Milroe, and he was the difference. He was the best player on the football field the other night. And so LSU's got to turn the page. And, they got to go down to Gainesville and play Florida. They're a 4.5-point favorite. Florida's banged up. They say they're going to keep Napier. They got blown out the other day. And, they got a transfer quarterback from Yale. If Florida Gators have a transfer quarterback from Yale, the world's not right.
I don't even know how that's possible.
That's my point. It's like, wait a minute. Did I really just say the quarterback for the Florida Gators transferred in from Yale?
And by the way,
let that sink in.
Do we really believe Billy Napier's job's safe? I mean, if they win 5 games and they beat Florida and they win 5 games, do we really believe that Billy Napier at 5-7 is going to survive in year 3? I'd just be shocked. I hope for him. I like the guy, but Jesus.
Now there's a little heat on the AD, and now the basketball coach has got a sexual harassment thing against him. So, they say Napier's going to be back. Time will tell. Let it play out.
All right, New Orleans Saints. Chris Long, Howie Long's son, was in town for the game, his first LSU game he's ever seen in Tiger Stadium and all that. He was he was with Ryan Russillo, and I was visiting with those guys on Friday night, and he agreed with me wholeheartedly. He said, "Hey, juice is real. That coach change juice is real. Like it carries you for a week. The building's happier, everybody's happier, and in this case." The head coach, Rizzi, is the one that, the players love. He's special teams coach, a lot of energy. Everybody interacts with him. They all were against Dennis Allen. So the 1 week juice worked. Kirk Cousins didn't throw a touchdown. He had 1 interception. And even though they ran the football for almost 200 yards, they somehow lost the game because the field goal kicker missed a couple of field goals. They got a chance here, Tommy, with this thing to continue. The Browns are not good, and the Saints are favored.
Yeah, the Saints are favored over the Browns. Browns had an open date last week, so they're getting ready for the Saints. The Saints are a 1.5 favorite in the Dome. That'll be noon on Sunday. Like you said, Jameis Winston, longtime Saints player, is going to be leading the Browns as they come into here. That might give the Browns a little juice. We talk about that word, but Browns are 2-7, and they're not going to be a playoff team. Saints are not going to be a playoff team. I don't know how much juice will be in the Dome next week.
I think this, after the Saints won, and the fact that they are Jameis Winston, who he's either you love him or you hate him, but there's just interest around him. I think that will get some people in the stadium, no question. And of course, later on in the season, when the Commanders come to town, with Jaden Daniels, there'll be a crowd regardless of the Saints record. The problem is that it's funny, Joel Davis said this, and we can totally see it happening, and that is, the Saints are going to win just enough games to have like the 11th, 12th pick in the draft. That's not going to make a difference for their team, instead of just losing them all and having the first or second pick in the draft. And that way you can get a franchise quarterback, or you can trade it for players or something like that. The Saints are going to do just enough to give Rizzy hope he can get the job, but he won't. And to just get enough wins to where you're not going to get a franchise changer right off the bat. And that's going to be the most Saints thing ever.
It's definitely trending in that direction. And that's the path that I think I see for the Saints. Nice win yesterday. It was good. I watched the game, but, they're not going to be a playoff team, and they still got a lot of problems out there.
TK, by the way, speaking of the kicker woes, the Broncos are 5-5. Right now, they're the 7th team in the AFC. They would be in the playoffs if the season would end today. Will Lutz had a game-winning kick blocked, had a chance to beat the undefeated Chiefs, a 35-yard field goal, which in the NFL, a 35-yard field goal is probably a 90% make or better, but it was blocked. He has been a disappointment. I'm not saying that kick was his fault, because looking at the replay, they did get a lot of pressure. But Will Lutz has been a klutz. Sean Payton, being loyal to his guy has cost them a game or two this year. But still, kudos to Sean Payton, because I think the Broncos are awful. The fact that they're 5-5 and right now would be in the playoffs is impressive. We'll see what happens down the stretch, but that was a huge opportunity for the Broncos that was missed. Some other kickers missed field goals as well. How about the Lions last night win a game where Jared Goff throws 5 interceptions, and they were down 16 at half and still came back and won, because the Texans, they tried to just give it away every time they had it in the second half as well.
Yeah, that was a wild one for sure. And, you're right. When the Chiefs blocked that field goal, like 4 guys could have blocked it. I mean, there was major penetration that you don't normally see. And then, the Lions, the Lions are for real. They're going to make noise in the playoffs. And their coach is a fiery guy, former Saint player. And I love the Lions uniforms. I make no secret about that. And they did a heck of a job to come back on the road and get that win last night.
All right, TK, last thing. We told you about this lawsuit that's going on with the LHSA. I feel bad for these kids, man, because, you fired up. You got timelines. You got structures. The playoffs are supposed to start right now. They're in this wonderment. Is it going to start? Is it not going to start this week, next week? What's going to happen? And the bottom line is that University High in Baton Rouge played a couple of ineligible players, 2 kids that transferred from Liberty High in Baton Rouge. They played this year. It got the paperwork got filed last week that they had to forfeit the 9 games, but there's a clause. There's a little clause in the paperwork, that with the rules of the LHSCA that say, hey, within 10 days of the playoffs, you can't file any rules against, basically it's sort of like a statute of limitations there. Within 10 days of the playoffs, you can't change anything with the playoffs. And so I don't know. There's a lawsuit going on. We'll see how this thing plays out. Everything's on hold. Think of it like your taxes. If you file your taxes, you got 7 years or whatever the amount of years is before, hey, if there's a mistake in there, whatever, if anything, or you didn't file something, if it's not caught after 7, if it's caught after 7 years, so what? Statute of limitations is up. And that's kind of what U High standing behind on this, that, hey, you filed you filed some things against us within 10 days of the playoffs. You can't do that. So we'll see. This is a bizarre situation, Tommy.
It's really bizarre, and it affects a lot of people, a lot of high school coaches, teams, all their fans and families and all that. The brackets are out, so you have to proceed as if that's what's going to happen until you're told not. It's just like when you go to a Rougarou game and you think it might rain, you got to go to the game unless the Rougarou say it's not going to be played. So these high school coaches and players, they got to begin their preparations, all the classifications, selected, non-selected. They got to do it all. They gotta be thinking today that we're playing whoever it says in the bracket this coming Friday night. And then if something changes, then you have to adjust to that. But it's a distraction only if you let it be. I think most of the high school coaches, although you got teams in the playoffs with a 2-8 record and a 1-9 record, which I think is ridiculous, but it is what it is. So, and your top teams are going to end up being around when it comes to the dome. You mentioned earlier, I don't know if you can push the dome back. I don't know if you can push the dates back. Is the dome available? That becomes the question there. And then you can't play 2 games in 1 week because then you'd be getting into a safety thing. So it's a mess. And I think we just got to let it start on time, see what's going to happen with this hearing next week on the 18th, which is a week from today, as you pointed out, and see if that changes anything. But what's crazy about that is they play a bunch of games this week. You're going to have somebody's going to win every game. Okay, you're going to have wins, losses. There's going to be no ties. Then what if the ruling comes out different? Do they have to back it up? I mean, it's bizarre to say the very least that it would get to this at this time of the year. It's unfortunate for the LHSAA and more so unfortunate for all these coaches and players.
Yep. Hey, don't forget 12:30 to 2:30 will be our new time this week for the Sports Shorts Radio Saturday morning. LSU plays Florida at 2:30. We'll have the show for you from 12:30 to 2:30 live from the Bruley Walk-Ons. So don't miss that. That's just a one-off. Normally we're 10 to 12, but because of the start time of the pregame show and all that, we'll be 12:30 to 2:30 from the Bruley Walk-Ons this Saturday morning. Don't miss it. And we'll have more on Wednesday. We'll get to Wednesday. Well, by Wednesday, we'll be able to tell you about the college football playoffs. Top 12 will be revealed. We'll see kind of where they are this week, how everything gets shuffled and jumbled up with Georgia's loss and whatnot. And we'll go from there. Plus, hopefully we'll have some update on the LHSAA playoff situation as well. Tommy, tell us about Court Street Cafe as we get out of here.
Hey, 7 days a week, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Jason and the staff do a super job. A couple of minutes over the Mississippi River Bridge. Go to the right, second red light, take a right on Court Street. Look 100 yards down on your right, you'll see the big patio out front, plenty of parking. Court Street Cafe, breakfast, lunch, dinner. They got a lot of lunch specials, dinner specials, drink specials in the bar. Famous steak night on Saturday night, fillets, ribeyes, you name it. Also, the Sunday brunch is very popular here in the morning until the early afternoon. Court Street Cafe. Connect with them on Facebook and Instagram. It's a great way to keep up with all the specials, the musical talent, everything else they got going here in Port Allen at Court Street Cafe. Stop by and tell Jason you heard about it on Sports Shorts Daily. As we always say, like and share this show. Doesn't matter whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X. Like and share this show. That helps us out a lot. We will be back Wednesday morning for another edition of Sports Shorts Daily. Have a great day, everyone.